Hello and welcome to HR Talk, People Management's regular discussion about the HR topics making the news. I'm James Brockett and this week we'll be talking about gender equality reporting. Last week, Minister for Women and Equalities Theresa announced new guidelines for employers on how to conduct reporting. Firms are being encouraged on a voluntary basis to share data about their organisations, such as the gender pay gap and the proportion of men and women at different levels of seniority. I'm joined by Rachael Saunders, Policy and Research Manager at Opportunity Now, to discuss this topic. So, Rachael, what's the value of this kind of data for organisations, and how will the new guidelines lead to an improvement in the way employers tackle equality issues?
Opportunity Now, we hope that most employers would already be collecting this kind of information. So if you care about women's progression at work, or if you're interested in making sure that you recruit the right number of women, or that you're retaining women in your organisation, then you should already have some idea of how many people you're recruiting, how they're doing, are they being promoted fairly, how many women are on your boards, for example. So this isn't a new idea. The idea of having this kind of data isn't something that Theresa May kind of invented with this approach. But what she is doing is saying not only is it right that employers think about that information, they should act internally. So if they find that, for example, there are very few women at senior levels in financial management, then they should do something about that, either try to recruit, try to train, and that once they've taken that action, then they can report on it publicly. So the reporting is a lever and a mechanism so that people can maybe compare to others within their sector, or so that those companies which are already doing a really good job can be celebrated for that and can make that public. So we would hope that really good employers would already have this information, and it's just a question of publishing it, putting it out there in the public domain so that we can have a wider conversation.
And how many employers are putting that in the public domain already then, and will these guidelines persuade more to take that step?
Yeah, I think it really varies. I mean, in the Davis report on women on boards, he asked companies to set targets. So generally speaking, companies already publish who's on their board. So you can already see how many women are on your board. Most companies will have some sense of, especially if they have a big kind of graduate recruitment intake, they might already know the percentage of women and men that they take on, and often they might publish that, especially if the numbers are good, to encourage graduates to choose their organisation. So, bits of information are already likely to be in the public domain, but it's being more kind of systematic and comprehensive about both collecting and publishing that information.
Yeah. Some organisations undoubtedly fear the transparency of putting sort of some sensitive data out in the open. What would you say to an employer who thought that way and was cautious about publicising figures?
Yeah, I think it's really important this is a think, act, report approach. So it's first of all kind of gathering the information together, thinking about what your organisation's doing, what your company's doing, and being confident in yourself that that what you're doing is right and that you can defend it. And that's not because people are deliberately discriminating. I don't think that tiny numbers are, if any, but anything inadvertent can be picked up at that stage. And then it's about acting and doing something about it once you've done your analysis, and only then the reporting. So it's not that there's a kind of universal set of measures that everyone has to publish on tomorrow. It's an encouragement to do that, to collect the data, act on it, improve things, get things working properly, and then to report on your progress. So by the time you're reporting, you ought to already have positive progress to report, to let people know about.
Yeah. The guidelines give employers the ability to select which measures they want to think about and act on and report on. Is that a sensible approach, or wouldn't it be easier if every organisation had to think about the same measures to report on?
I think it helps that there's a suite of measures, so we can all kind of be talking in the same language. So when we're talking about reporting, you can say, I'm choosing measure number 4 or 5, or however it is in the ACAS guidance. But every employer, every company is in a slightly different situation. So I think it's appropriate that people, at the thinking stage, each company can think about which measure is most relevant to them, which measure is most important for them, and then take that action and then report on what they did. So there would be no point to this if you had to kind of artificially create reporting. You can't report on work that you're not doing, frankly, and you can't do everything at once. You have to prioritise, you have to do what's right for your company. So I think it's right that the approach is flexible enough that different companies can make their own decisions about what their priorities are and therefore what they report on.
Yeah. Overall then, how optimistic are you about the progress being made on gender equality? And if the title of this is Think Act Report, are businesses at the thinking stage, or are they at the acting and reporting stage in general?
Yeah, I think it really varies. Opportunity Now members, we give awards every year to companies who are doing a great job of, this isn't new for our member employers. They've been doing this work for a long time, and what they're doing is assessing the work that's already been done and making sure that their next steps are strategic, that they tie in with company priorities, that they build on previous actions. So certainly, members of Opportunity Now have been doing this for a long time. I'm not, obviously not everyone is at the same place, and I think what's valuable about this approach is that you can kind of start from wherever you are and maybe take a first step or a second step, or you can be someone who's already actually thought about this a lot, done a lot of work, and this is primarily for those people about the reporting, about putting that in the public domain and having it celebrated.
Right, thanks very much, Rachel. You can read more about this topic and keep up to date with all the latest HR news on our website, peoplemanagement.co.uk. That's all for this week. Till next time, take care.